Lena called on a Tuesday evening while I was standing in the lighting aisle of a hardware store, comparing two brands of dimmer switches I didn't actually need. Her voice sounded overly steady from the beginning. That was my first warning. "Dad," she said, "I need to tell you something about the wedding. People think painful moments arrive dramatically. Most of mine have happened under fluorescent lighting with shopping baskets nearby." I leaned against the cart and listened while she explained that Neil would be walking her down the aisle instead of me. Neil, her stepfather. I remember staring at a box labeled soft white, energy efficient, while she spoke carefully through reasons she had probably rehearsed for days. "He's just been more present for more of it," she said quietly. "More of it." I told her I understood before I actually did. Then I bought the dimmer switches anyway because leaving the store empty-handed felt too pathetic. For several weeks afterward, I kept trying to organize my feelings into something cleaner than they were. It would have been easier if I'd been a terrible father, drunk, cruel, gone completely. Instead, I existed in the exhausting middle category of men who loved their children sincerely while failing them gradually. After the divorce, I took contract engineering work wherever I could find it. Phoenix, Tulsa, Indianapolis. Sometimes 3 states in 1 year. I never missed child support. I missed plenty of other things. School concerts, Saturday mornings. The ordinary invisible routines children build their memories from. Meanwhile, Neil had been there for all the moments that don't sound important until decades later. Driving lessons, parent-teacher conferences, waiting rooms during flu season, replacing dead batteries in smoke detectors. I used to comfort myself by believing intention mattered most. Then my daughter grew up and informed me gently that presence mattered too. Friends reacted badly on my behalf. "You're seriously going? What kind of daughter does that?" One guy at work suggested I skip the wedding entirely to keep some self-respect. That phrase bothered me for days afterward, because the older I got, the less self-respect seemed connected to pride. Sometimes it looked more like endurance. The rehearsal dinner took place at a small Italian restaurant with low ceilings and too much wine being poured too quickly. I arrived early because arriving exactly on time suddenly felt emotionally risky. Neil approached me near the back patio before dinner started. I had spent years wanting to dislike him properly. It would have simplified everything. Unfortunately, he was a decent man, gray-haired now, slightly overweight, nervous in a transparent way I recognized immediately because I felt the same. "I tried talking her out of it," he said quietly. That surprised me enough to answer honestly. "Why?" Neil glanced toward the restaurant windows where Lena was laughing with friends. "Because I knew it would hurt you." There wasn't much to say after that. My resentment lost structure in that moment. You can sustain anger against selfish people, against cruel people, against men trying to replace you, not against someone who spent 20 years helping raise your daughter and still worried about your feelings anyway. The wedding took place outdoors under white fabric canopies that snapped softly in the wind. I sat in the 3rd row exactly where the program indicated, not hidden, not central, fair, honestly. I remember noticing stupid details while waiting, a crooked flower arrangement, one groomsman sweating through his collar, somebody's phone vibrating repeatedly nearby. Then the music changed. Everyone stood. Lena appeared at the far end of the aisle holding Neil's arm. For a few seconds, I felt strangely calm, not happy, not devastated, just prepared. This, I told myself, was adulthood, accepting consequences without demanding rewrites. They began walking slowly forward. Halfway down the aisle, Lena stopped. At first, people only looked confused. She turned toward Neil and handed him the bouquet. He said something to her I couldn't hear. Then she stepped away from him and started walking back toward me. The entire ceremony went silent in layers. I actually looked behind myself once because I genuinely thought something had gone wrong. Lena stopped in front of me. Her eyes were already wet, but she wasn't crying dramatically. She looked embarrassed, relieved, terrified, all at once. "I need both of you," she said softly. That was all. No speech, no performance, just truth arriving late. I stood up too quickly and nearly caught my shoe against the chair leg. Some people laughed quietly from nerves. Then Lena took my arm. Neil met us halfway down the aisle, and the 3 of us walked the remaining distance together in awkward, uneven steps, while 200 guests tried to understand what they were witnessing. At the reception, nothing transformed magically. The past remained the past. Neil still knew her everyday life better than I did in many ways. I still carried years I could not repair with one symbolic moment. But sometime near the end of the night, I walked outside and found Neil loading folding chairs into a rental truck alone. Without speaking, I picked up the other side of the stack. We carried them together through the humid dark while music drifted faintly from inside the reception hall. Neither of us looked at the other much. We didn't need to. By then, we both understood something Lena had probably known long before either of us did. Fatherhood was never a position someone wins. It was just a long series of moments people either showed up for or didn't.